Hello and welcome to the show. This is Everything Under the Sun. My name is Ty. I hope all of you are doing amazing out there and taking care of yourselves and loving yourselves and those that you love as much as possible. I wanted to kind of speak about something I've been thinking about over the past couple weeks. And, as I do these podcasts, I think about a lot of things during the week. I've mentioned that as well during the few episodes. And, during the week, I think about these concepts that I bring to you in these podcasts, but as I go through the week, I'm reading different material, I'm listening to different things, and many of them are saying the same things I'm saying, except using different words. And I feel as though those words may resonate with people more than the words that I use. And just as I spoke about in the episode about lenses, we all look at the world through a different lens. And through that lens, we're also using words that are corroborating with the lens that we're viewing the world through. So obviously the words that I'm using, the way that I'm explaining these concepts are from the lens that I am viewing the world through. So the words are going to be according to that lens. But as I listen to different people speak about these same things, they're coming from different backgrounds, maybe from strong religious backgrounds or Eastern philosophy backgrounds or just philosophies of just spirituality in different ways or kind of just the practicality of life and science. There are so many people that are doing actual research on the things that I'm speaking about, like doing, brain scans and studies like Joe Espinoza is someone that is a neurologist that, he's speaking about many of these things and he's studying the brain in ways that help people to recognize the power of thought and intention. So, there are ways that people are speaking about these same concepts that I feel may resonate better with others. And there are many resources that I have that I've been kind of consuming in myself and finding more words to explain this to people that I feel could be useful. So if you want to kind of be part of an email list, I was thinking about getting together an email list where I send out an email maybe once a week or every other week or once a month. I haven't really decided yet, but just something that is an email that has information in it that may be helpful for you on your journey in life. I mean, we're all in different places, and some people may be worrying about just the practicality of life, like what's going on in the world, the state of everything that's happening, and trying to move yourself into a place of well-being from that place. Some people are in a place where they recognize that they create their own reality, and they are trying to find ways of truly enacting that and bringing that forward and starting to see the manifestations that they wish to see in their lives. I mean, there's so many different places that each person is at as we go through this journey of life, and there's no wrong place to be. But the words that can help you can be different words than the words that I'm saying to you right now. So if you want to be part of that email list, you can just send an email to everything.sunpodcast@gmail.com and just say, I want to be part of the email list. And I'll send you references and books and journals and audios and different things that get across the same thing I'm trying to get across here, but using different words, using words that may resonate more with you, using words that may be closer to the lens that you're viewing the world through, and something that maybe can hit you in a different place to help you to move to that place that you want to be. Because no matter what we do in life, we're trying to move towards happiness, freedom, love, joy, understanding in life. And as we kind of sift through all the experiences that we have in life, all the situations that we go through in life, we're really trying to move towards that. So I want to aid in any way possible. And I know that my words may not give the idea that I want to get across fully. And with that, I'm happy to send you off to look at other references and listen to other people and read other texts and kind of gain this information, because whether it's coming from me or anyone else, like I don't really care. Like, as long as you are finding aid out of it, as long as you are finding some kind of help out of it, as long as it's helping you to feel better in your life. And I mean, that's all that really matters to me is that you find a way to bring joy into your life and allow that joy to bring about everything that you've wanted in your life to come to you. And that's all I really want to get across, and that's all I really want to have for you in your life is that happiness and that joy and that understanding and that freedom. So if you want to be part of that email list, again, send just your email. You can just send I want to be part of the email list to everything.sunpodcast@gmail.com. And again, it'll be, maybe weekly or bi-weekly or once a month or something like that, where it'll just be books or references or audio or maybe even just thoughts that I have that may be useful for anyone that's wanting to hear it. So it's free. There's nothing that you have to pay for, but if you're interested, just send that to everything.sunpodcast@gmail.com. and I will kind of keep you posted with all of that information. So that's kind of just something that's been on my mind. And if you're interested, again, do all of that. But today, I figured that we may as well get back to some of the topics that were sent in by all of you. And thank you so much for all those topics that were sent in. Everything.sunpodcast@gmail.com. You can send any topic or things or thoughts or anything that you're interested in to that email, and I'd be happy to just read that information or add them to the topic box. So speaking of the topic box, the box itself actually is no longer a thing. During the moving process, it just didn't come with me during the move, but all the topics did. So all your topics are still intact and they're still with me, but they're just in a bag right now, and they're just less dramatic for the drawing of the topics. So today is the topic of biotech, and this is a topic that was actually drawn a few weeks ago. So I'm just really excited to speak about this because I had a misconception about this idea of biotech, and I was assuming that it was in the form of integrated technology, like mechanical eyes and livers and things like that. And although that may be a small facet of it, there's so much more to biotechnology that we I think is very, very interesting. So again, topic for this week is biotechnology. If you have any topics or anything that you'd love to send in, you can send those to everything.sunpodcast@gmail.com. And as for the next topic for next week, I am just going to shake this bag here. You can't really hear it as much, but we're just going to get a topic out. And it looks like the topic for next week is going to be resilience, or some week down the line, it's going to be resilience. And resilience is kind of the basis of what I speak about in this podcast. It's kind of the foundation for how we move in our lives, and the best way to come out in the best place that we can. And as we go through life, we are going to encounter many challenges and things that are going to test our willingness to keep moving forward, and that is our resilience, our movement towards our happiness, our movement towards our freedom and understanding. That is a constant movement that we're going towards, and that resilience that we have through that process is what allows us to get to that place and find our strength through that process. So resilience, I'm very happy about that topic. Again, everything.sunpodcast@gmail.com for any other topics or any of the social media pages that I will link at the end of this podcast. So today is the topic of biotechnology. And, as I said before, I thought this topic was kind of that Black Mirror type of integrated technology where, implants and, mechanical arms and things like that. And although that is a small facet of it, biotechnology is something that is such a larger topic, and I don't even know if I can reach the depths of everything that this goes into in this podcast. But, there's so much here, and I feel like there's also a deeper understanding that we can all gain from just what we're doing and how we're creating the life that we see around us, the world that we see around us. And I think it's just very interesting as we kind of go through this transition of, kind of learning new things and creating new applications for the things that we want to see in the world. So biotechnology in itself is a pretty broad topic, and essentially at its core, it's utilizing and modifying living organisms for human purposes. So we see this in everything from farming practices to genetically modified organisms to vaccines and different forms of medicine that we see in, our common day practices. And as we kind of look at this, we can realize that there are so many practical applications that biotechnology has presented to us that can be very useful and very, and they are ways in which we have survived until this day. There have been vaccines and different medications that have helped save countless lives. That's something that really can't be disputed. But as we kind of look at biotechnology and seeing that we are manipulating living organisms to alter the ways in which they thrive within the environment. So kind of backtracking a little bit, biotechnology is categorized into 4 different main categories. And these 4 categories are medical, agricultural, industrial, and environmental. And within each of these categories, these have been technological advancements that have radically changed the course and the longevity of human life. But as we kind of do this, as we kind of modify these living organisms to sustain different environments, to aid in reproduction of cells and biological things that we have within our bodies. As we use this technology to modify the natural course of things, there is some debate as to, what exactly is that doing for in the grand scheme of things. Like, is this causing more harm than good in many ways? And, as we kind of look at this, or as I kind of conceptualize this idea of biotechnology, again, although it's categorized into these four main categories, there are several different branches that it goes out into. I mean, everything from different biofuels and different bioengineering and, you know, just the tools that we utilize in our lives. I mean, many of those things are due to biotechnologies that we've created. And as we look at this, and this is really what I wanted to get at with this topic, and I'm not in the field of biotechnology, and that's not something that I've really, I guess, invested a lot of time in looking at. But as I look at this idea and think about this, and no matter what category it is, no matter what topic we're looking at, there's a deeper meaning that applies directly to us. And there's something that we can look at that's at the root of all of it that we can really use as the basis for everything that we have moving forward. There are things that we create in this world. There are things that I've created and that we've created in this world. I mean, and biotechnology and all the things that have come from that is part of that. But the things that we create, they're also just tools. And it's the way that we use them that's important. And that's really the biggest thing that I wanted to get at with this idea. And I mean, it's two main parts of this idea of biotech. It's first off the application of it. How are we utilizing this? How are we utilizing these tools that we have? And the second part is the most important part. How did these technologies and how did these tools even come to be created into the world that we have, in the world that we see, and in the lives that we live? How do they even come about? So in that first part, the application of it, we can see that there are many applications of biotechnology that maybe we would want to steer away from. Like there are genetically modified organisms. Many people are very against GMOs, pesticides, and all these different things that have been, this is all part of biotechnology, like even pesticides that are helping to eradicate different insects and things within plants and crops and stuff like that. We also see that it's causing maybe different health effects for people. Maybe it's causing different problems with organic plants that are being planted in the area. I mean, there are so many different problems or issues that can come from this technology that essentially is feeding millions of people. Because GMOs, I mean, the genetically modified organisms, I mean, these types of produce and things like that, I mean, they're being grown in environments that maybe they won't be able to be grown in, or maybe they're being grown at a faster rate to keep up with this consumption rate of, humanity. There are ways in which we are able to feed people in remote locations because of the food that we're able to create. And we can see that, okay, there are benefits to this, okay, that it's feeding people that are hungry. But, also we see caveats with that as well, where there are abilities to create food on a mass scale, yet there are people still starving. There are ways of getting that food to people who are starving, and we have the food to do that, and it's just not being done. So there are obviously caveats within that, but as we look at the tools, as we look at what we have, we can start to conceptualize different ways of creating more abundance for people in more meaningful ways. As we look at genetically modified organisms and seeing how maybe we don't want that, maybe we want a different way of creating sustainable food source for people. Start looking outside the box for the reason and the solution to that. We have to recognize that although these tools may exist, although these technologies may exist, we can utilize them in the way that we want to utilize them. Like again, these are just tools. These are all just tools that we're able to use in different ways. And how are we using them? Are we using them in a way that's just succumbing to the way that it already is? Are we saying that, okay, life is this way and science is this way and we just have to keep living by it? Or are we going to take this idea and take this new advancement and say, okay, what can we do with this tool? The example of a gun being a tool and just how is it being utilized? I mean, most people will say, well, a gun is just to shoot people, so it's not a very useful tool at all. But you've seen movies and different shows where someone uses a gun to break open a lock to free someone, to utilize it as a tool in a way that is liberating and doesn't harm anyone. So we can say that a tool is inherently bad, but it's just the common application of it that may be the bad part or the thing that's perceived as bad. As we look at these tools of biotechnology, I mean, technological advancement in humanity has been amazing. I mean, I fully and completely believe in the strength and the ability of humans alone. Just humans to our own devices and utilizing our minds for creating things that we want to see and things that we want to experience. But part of that is the things that we create. And technology is a creation. It's something that's truly amazing. And as you've seen just in the past 15 years, the past 2 decades, technology has gone to massive extremes. Like it's expanded at a rate that is so exponential that, even humanity can hardly keep up. The phones that you have, the technologies that you have, they're already outdated the moment that they're released. That's how fast technology is moving. And as it moves at that rate, people are thinking more things. People are thinking outside the box. People are creating new things with these technologies. I mean, 3D printing is something that is so amazing, and now it's being utilized to build houses within a day. Like people that have been homeless, people that have been utilizing so many raw materials to create, housing structures that are even subpar, now can, without labor, without struggle, can create these houses. Like structures that are going to be solid foundations for people to live and dwell in and not die. It's like so many people are dying just because they're succumbed to the elements. There are ways in which we're utilizing technology and creating things that are incredibly beneficial for the longevity of humanity. But as we look at that as well, we look at technologies and we see that there are some things like, GMOs, like different bioweapons and things like that that really aren't the direction that we want to see it go in. But the root of all of it is the application of the tool and the depth of thought that we're giving to each concept. We have the technologies and we have the information, we have the tools here. It's always been here. I mean, even the tools to create the technologies that we have always been here. Like the metals, the silicone, like the stuff that is the central part of a computer chip, it's all been here before man has even thought about creating the computer chip. But yet, the moment that that thought came about and the moment that it was applied into the world, we see this explosion of technology that comes from it because people now realize that's a possibility. People now realize that, oh, the things that we can create are so much more exponential than we've even imagined. And that's why technology is moving at the fast rate that it is. But as we see this tool expanding, as we see biotechnology starting to impact our lives in various ways, medicine, agricultural means, environmental means, like we can see that there are things that we enjoy about it and things that we would like to see changed about it. But as long as we feel as though we are a victim of it, we can't do anything about it. We have to look in the eyes of a creator. We have to look in the eyes of how are we going to create what we want to see. Because if it were in the hands of the military, maybe 3D printing would just be used to create guns and weapons and body armor and stuff like that. I'm sure it is, but we have people using their minds to use this technology in a way that's helping people. All these technologies that we have, like they may have caveats that may be causing environmental damage or causing, health crises within individuals and the people that are living and indulging in this. We can also utilize our minds to create and use these technologies to create something more meaningful, something more abundant, something that reverses the environmental devastation that's happened, to reverse the health crises that people are experiencing due to the things that they're consuming in the world. There are ways in which we can create the world that we want to see, but we have to first imagine that it's possible. And unfortunately, it's not until something is presented in front of us that shows us that possibility, that shows us that door. When we can bring that door about, when we can find that door ourselves and open it and be the creator of the reality that we want to see. Because right now there are many people that are just creating reality by default. We're seeing things in our environment and saying, oh shit, that kind of sucks. I guess I just have to deal with that now. Oh shit, well, I don't like that very much, but that's just life. We can't do that. We can't keep perceiving the things outside of us and accepting it as what it is. If all of us did that always, then we would never have advanced ever. People are always creating things out of what is not seen. Ford created the car because he imagined that people can go faster than just a horse and buggy. When people said, wait a minute, you want to go faster? Just get a faster horse. That's not exactly what creation is. It's not looking at what is and creating something from that. Ford didn't see a car driving by and say, you know what, I think I like that. Let me just create something like that. We create things, new advancements from our thoughts. this unseen place, and then we create it into the world. So as you kind of think about these technologies and these advancements that we have in our lives, what is it that you are thinking? Are you thinking thoughts of devastation, of loss, of weakness? Or are you thinking thoughts of, okay, this technology is an advancement in some way? And as we take this advancement, how can we utilize it in the best way that's going to be beneficial for the world that we live in and the people that are around us? So, in all of that, I kind of just dove into both of those categories that I wanted to go into. First, the utilization of the technologies that we have. I mean, again, there are so many things that we have in our environment, and gene sequencing and modification of different organisms and things like that. I mean, these can be utilized in ways that are so beneficial. I mean, like they're creating enzymes that are capable of reversing oil spills, the damage from oil spills. I mean, this is something that's so amazing. I mean, they're finding ways of utilizing things that can help to reverse the damage that we created. And that is something so amazing. But it's not until people think outside the box, think outside of the practical means of what's been presented to us, and starting to shift it into a way of like, how can this be utilized to help and better the environment? So we can utilize these tools to help to better our living situations in the world around us. And it's not until we realize that we are capable of doing that that we're able to do that. And the second part that merges very much into that is, how did this stuff come about? And the answer to that, it came about by thought. It came about by inspiration, by someone seeing something in the environment, a problem in the environment, and saying, I want to create a difference. I want to make something different. I want to create a change. I want an advancement in this field, in this direction. I want to see something happen. And again, all those things are just conceptual thoughts. They're ideas, and they're these things that come from this non-tangible place. And then when people are fully immersed in that, when people fully believe that they can create that thing, guess what? We see it in our world. We see cell phones, we see microchips, we see these new technologies that are coming out. We see that the creation of the world around us is really starting from the thoughts that we are having. Every advancement, I mean, the phone that you're listening through, the headphones that you're listening through, the television that you watch, like the car that you drive, all of it just started as someone's thought. Because all the materials were here. As I've said before, all the materials were here before mankind even got here. The metal, the silicone, the raw materials, they've been here. And we've just found ways to utilize them. But it's always been here. The door has always been there. But you have to find it, and you have to open it, and you have to allow yourself to see what that doorway can lead you to. And now this door to biotechnology has been opened. We see that there's genetic sequencing. We see that there are bioengineering. There are ways that we can alter the environment around us to fit our needs. Now, how are you going to utilize that tool? And think outside the box. Think about things that aren't even present in our environment yet. If you see a problem, then there's a solution. It's the proper utilization of these tools that are helping us to create the world that we want to see. But we can't create the world that we want to see if we're solely focused on the world that is. Because then we're just going to keep perpetuating the world that is. We're going to keep moving in the direction of the world that is. We're going to keep feeling kind of stuck in the situation. Well, that's just life. That's just what we have to deal with. We're going to keep getting stuck in that mindset if we don't realize that all these things are just tools. And all these tools were created from a thought, this intangible place. And guess who has thoughts? You have thoughts. We all have thoughts. It's about the determination of those thoughts to move towards something that you feel is better for yourself. You feel is better for the world around you, for the loved ones that you have. And this is something that is applicable to every part of our lives, not just biotech. I mean, this is the essence of, the things that we create, the world around us. This is the essence of our lives. What are the tools that we're creating, and how are we using that to impact the world? How are we using that to impact ourselves and our well-being? And how are we taking all of it in? There's so many things that are being created in this world that incite fear, that incite devastation, that incite kind of a sense of apathy in so many people, because we're seeing the creations that are happening in the world, the technologies that are creating and being utilized in these devastating ways, and we're saying, this is just so terrible. I don't even want to be here anymore. I don't want to have to deal with this anymore. I'm so afraid. I'm so scared. I wake up terrified. These are things that we're seeing, and we're interpreting it within our own lives in a way that's so devastating towards who we are as people and how we're moving through our lives. And it's not until we look at these things as just tools, as means of creating something else, and as a way of letting us know that there is a potential for change because we've seen the change. Now, it may not be in the direction that we wanted to see it in, but that's where we come in. That's where our experience of contrast, that's where our experience of this negativity or negative experience, or something that's not pleasant for us to see, that's where that kind of comes in, and that perspective comes in. And then your thoughts that are in conjunction with that, your thoughts that are saying, okay, I see this problem, I see this thing that I don't want. Now, how can I use the tools that are around me, the technologies that we have, the advancements that we have, to create something that's better, to create something that's more, to create something that's more in line with what I envision? But we find ourselves so often looking at what is and succumbing to what is, rather than realizing that what is was just a thought, just like you have thoughts. And I know I feel like I'm kind of going in circles as far as just reiterating this, but this is something that's very important. This is something that is the strength that we need to have as people, to realize that we can create the things that we want for ourselves, but you have to conceptualize it first. You have to know that you can first. Just like all these people that decided to, I wonder if I can look at this organism more closely. They decided to try to figure out how to look at this organism more closely, and now we have telescopes. Now we have microscopes. Now we have things that are able to look at the very things that someone just conceptualized looking at. We can move through this world and we can create the things that we want to see based on the things that we experience, but not until we realize that those things that we experience, that those items and those things that are coming to us in our lives, were first the product of someone's thought. And when you realize that you have that very same strength, then you can create the world that you want to see, despite what already is. So, that's kind of just what I had for this idea of biotechnology. It really didn't go into depth of just the different biotechnologies. And again, like, this is such a broad field. I mean, there's marine biotechnology, there's like medicinal biotechnologies, there's environmental. As I kind of stated, there are just so many different avenues and aspects of biotech that you can kind of look into, maybe some that you've delve into yourself. But at the end of the day, the thing that I wanted to get at is that we see so many changes happening in the world, and many times we feel like we can't do anything about that. But the realization is that we can. We just have to know that we can. And in that knowing, we can also realize that we have the strength to make the change that we want to see. And that these tools around us, these advancements around us, these amazing advancements around us, although they may be applied in ways that we don't agree with, we can apply them in the ways that we do agree with. And that's what's important. And if we can't have a technology, or we can't find a technology that is going to aid us in the way that we want to see the change happen, then create that technology, create that means, create it. Because again, all of the things that we see around us, all the tools that we use, they started off with a thought. They started off with someone just wanting to see a change in their environment, a change in their world. And they kept moving with that feeling until they created that change that they wanted to see. And this is possible for everyone. And it's more possible even now, as we kind of move into this technological age where we can share information, we can share ideas, we can share thoughts, we can share just community with one another, and create more meaningful things that we want to see in the world, create more meaningful interactions, create more meaningful experiences, create things that are going to be more impactful for our well-being. So yeah, that's all I really have for this episode of Biotech. I mean, it really didn't dive into biotech in all of its different domains, but it's a pretty huge topic in itself, and I feel as though I wouldn't do it justice if I went into explaining like the scientific side of it. But there's a deeper meaning within all of it that, we can look at the practicality of it, and it's like, yes, science, equation, and, enzymes and all this different stuff. I mean, we can dive into all of that, but what does it actually mean for our livelihood? What does it actually mean for what we're experiencing? What does it actually mean for the strength that we have within ourselves to deal with our lives, to move towards our happiness? So no matter what domain you find yourself to be passionate in, go towards that passion. Move towards that passion, move towards that happiness that you feel. If it brings you joy, then move towards it. And as we look at the tools that are around us in this world, we can utilize them to help us move towards our happiness. We can utilize the things that we want to create, the thoughts that we have, and bring them about into this world to help to bring about that happiness. And as I think about biotechnology and just all the advancements and all the different things that it's brought about in our lives, I think it's important to just recognize that as long as we keep moving towards that happiness within ourselves, then we can create amazing things in the world. We can create an end to world hunger. We can create a reversal of the environmental crisis. We can do anything that we want as long as we feel that we are able to. And I assure you, there will be passion behind it. There will be fun behind it. There will be joy behind it. There will be exhilaration behind that movement. But you have to realize that you're able to do it. And that realization comes from a thought. It comes from a repeated thought that, I can do this. I can create the things that I want to see. People have created crazy and amazing things in this world, and I've seen it through the biological technologies that I've seen, through the other technologies that I've seen, through just the creation of various things in my life that I've seen. I've seen that this has happened. I've seen that people have thought of something and created it into the world. People have thought of a business idea and created that business. People have thought things and created them. And now that I think about it, almost everything, well, everything actually that has ever been created started with a thought. I wonder if I can think something that will improve my life. I wonder if I can think of something that will better humanity in some way. I wonder if I can think of something that can be manifested into this world that will be abundance and joy and prosperity and everything that I'm looking for. Because everything that I've seen around me so far has been people creating with thought. So I wonder if I can do the same thing. And it's after wondering that more and applying that more and moving towards that more that's going to help you to create the life that you want to see. And I have no doubt that many amazing things will be accomplished by you by moving in that direction. Because we all have passions towards wanting to help people, wanting to make a change, wanting to make a difference, wanting to be the best selves that we can be and be the happiest that we can be in our lives. And as we move towards that, which is the work, I've mentioned the work multiple times. As we move towards that, we'll find ourselves in places and around people and in situations that are moving towards everything that we've ever desired. But we can't get down on ourselves by the things that we see. We can't get down on ourselves by what is, because no one ever has created something by solely looking at what is. By only looking at what is, you only perpetuate what is. You can look at what is to give you indication of what you want to see, but have your mind set on that future of what you want to see. Have your idea on that image of what is to come rather than what is. Have your emotions set on what is to come and what you know you can achieve in your life rather than what is right in front of you, rather than what's being presented to you. Because that is the pitfall that keeps people in the mire. That's the pitfall that keeps people stuck in themselves and not realizing that they are able to create amazing things in their lives. So, yeah, that's all I have for this idea of biotech. If you have any thoughts or ideas or anything that you'd like to share, you can send us to everything.sunpodcast@gmail.com. You can join any of the social media pages, Instagram, everything.sunpodcast, Twitter, @everysunpodcast, and the Facebook group, @everysunpodcast as well. And yeah, that's all I got. I love you all, and I will see you next time.